It's October 9th, 1996. We're in the Bronx for Game 1 of the ALCS between the two teams with the highest payrolls in baseball. With that kind of money flying around, you'd expect a pretty good show, yeah? Well, the Yankees and Orioles have not disappointed. Starting in the offseason and continuing through right now, tied 4-4 in the bottom of the 11th, we've seen some truly wild and unprecedented shit. Let's go ahead and rewind. This episode is presented by T-Mobile, America's largest 5G network. Looking around, you're going to see some new faces under Orioles caps and Yankees caps, and some faces who nearly traded their Yankees caps for Orioles caps, and some faces that sure seemed like they were going to put on a Yankee cap, but then at the last minute the faces were like, no, give me an Orioles cap. Faces wear caps, and this is perfect prose. The Orioles were big disappointments in '95, so yeah, open the wallets, use the money as fuel, and blow that old team up. Makes sense. The Yankees, on the other hand, exceeded expectations last season. They broke a 14-year playoff drought and were competitive in the ALDS. But they still exploded the team in the offseason. What you doing, George Steinbrenner? Fans didn't get it, nor did they like it. But apparently George Steinbrenner wasn't happy with half an inning away from the championship series. It's no fear t-shirt slogan logic. You know the one, second place is the first loser. And the Yankees weren't even second place when '95 was all said and done. I'm surprised Steinbrenner was influenced by t-shirts, but seems to be the case. Regardless of their impetus, two rich rivals went after the same talent this winter. The Orioles nearly lured David Cone away from the Yankees, but New York managed to keep him. Wasn't a terrible day for the O's, though. The day the Yanks signed Cone, they signed B.J. Surhoff and Roberto Alomar. Alomar paired up with Cal Ripken? That looked pretty good. Or bad, depending on who was doing the looking. During all this signing, both teams were trying to trade for lefty starter David Wells. This time, Baltimore got the guy. And in a knee-jerk reaction, Steinbrenner paid too much money to say, look, we got a new lefty too. Fans in the New York media were so pissed at their meddling owner. And it wasn't just the Kenny Rogers thing. Don Mattingly retired, which, fine, wasn't necessarily Steinbrenner's fault. The Yankees decided they didn't need Jack McDowell. They got a new catcher, who was worse than their old catcher. They were putting starting shortstop duties on the shoulders of a rookie who just finished a minor league season with 29 errors. Whereas the Orioles shortstop carried a streak of 70 errorless games into 1996. What is going on in New York? Steinbrenner really lost fans when he pushed out beloved Buck Showalter, the manager who took the Yanks from one of the worst in baseball to the door of the ALCS. In the hero manager's place, the owner hired Joe Torre, a guy who in 15 years of managing had been above 500 5 times. The prognosis for the Yanks season was bleak, whereas the O's had added complementary talent and were predicted to win the pennant. So, the Orioles won the Offseason Cup, a trophy shaped like a $sign. But obviously the Yankees busted predictions because here they are. And these are New York fans. They've got home field advantage. Winning in the offseason isn't much consolation if you lose in the baseball playing part of the season. At the end of April, our rivals met for the first time. The O's were on top by a few games, but not for long. Yankees sweep. That's not what we thought would happen. New York redefined themselves with this series. Both games were long, grueling affairs that saw the boys in stripes gut it out, come from behind, and slowly and steadily earn the W's. Whereas the Orioles were growing a reputation as the kind of team that blew leads and pouted about manager decisions. In the second game of the series, new manager Davey Johnson pulled Ripken for a pinch runner. It was the first time since his rookie year Ripken had been pulled with the game on the line. And he sat in the dugout glowering for 8 angry innings. Johnson also kind of wrecked Bobby Bonilla. He tried to make him a designated hitter, but Bonilla said that was too much pressure. And his numbers backed up that theory. Now, being an outspoken guy, Bonilla spoke out, and then Johnson was like, well, I was going to start you in right, but since I read that little comment in the newspaper, now I won't. because that's good management. I'm paraphrasing, of course. Meanwhile, the gap between Baltimore and New York was growing. Jeter turned out to be more than his minor league errors, and there was a surprising boost from new invincible setup man Mariano Rivera. The rivals split their next series, but in a 4-game series in early July, the Yankees, already up 6 games, brought out the brooms again. That's a 10-game lead. Bye-bye, Orioles. Fly away and be free. Johnson said it was time to completely retool again, get some youth, and hope for a better tomorrow. Bonilla and Wells were on the trade block, and it looked like the Yankees had the last laugh. But wait a second. Bonilla's over here, and Wells is over here, and here is the whole team in the ALCS, so something must have happened. By September 1, the once left-for-dead Orioles were gaining on the wait I thought we were comfortably in first place Yankees. How'd the Birds do it? They traded for Eddie Murray, who could be DH, which fixed Bonilla. Their new expectations, that they'd die quietly, allowed them to relax a bit. Their big bats came through, and their opponents hit a slump. The Yankees' closer was injured. Kenny Rogers was stinking up the place. They'd been without Cone for most of the season because pitching gave him an aneurysm in his arm. Then New York made a trade with the Brewers that was supposed to fix everything, but did not. Well, at least they got Pat Lestat. Oh, his foot's broken. Okay, mid-September, Baltimore is 3 games back, entering a 3-game series with New York. So if the O's can sweep... Oh, never mind. Yankees win the series. Orioles clinched the wild card spot about a week later when Roberto Alomar hit a homer in the 10th against the Blue Jays. Oh, and speaking of Alomar, does this ump look kind of pissed? Have you noticed more than your average number of signs about spit? It's all connected to Roberto Alomar. September 27th, leading the wild card race by 3 games, the O's were playing Toronto. Alomar strikes out. He disagrees with umpire John Hirschbeck, as you can see here. He is thrown out, which he very much disagrees with, as you can see here. Spitting in an ump's face is about as low as you can go. Oh, is someone holding Alomar's beer? Because after the game, he said Hirschbeck was a bitter man ever since his young child died of a rare disease. Don't give Alomar back his beer. He doesn't deserve it. Make him drink Fresca. When Hirschbeck was made aware of Alomar's comments, he charged the clubhouse to, quote, kill Alomar. He was restrained and thus unsuccessful. The second baseman was suspended just 5 games, and all he had to do was appeal, and then the league would have to have a hearing before the suspension was enforced, and they likely can't organize a hearing until '97. So he was free to send his team to the playoffs for the first time since 1983. He's a hero. Umpires, as a whole, were pissed. They threatened to strike, but MLB got a judge to say they couldn't. So in protest, they showed up to the Baltimore-Cleveland Division Series 17 minutes late. Speaking of the ALDS, the Orioles upset the best-in-the-league 99-win Cleveland team, clinching the series on Alomar's homer in the top of the 12th, Game 4. There goes our hero. Now, the city of New York seemed to take the second baseman's spitting almost personally. Before Game 1, the press tried to dissuade fans from throwing things onto the field. Mayor Rudy Giuliani, who, wow, he has really nice dark hair, tried to convince fans that giving Alomar the silent treatment was more punitive than throwing things. And tonight, there have been boos, there have been signs, but nobody's thrown anything. Guess the fans don't want to interfere with the playing field. Well, respectable. And besides, the booing was pretty effective. Alomar struck out 3 times in 6 at-bats and has only had 1 hit thus far. What also might be effective, the umpires hating him. The umpire enthusiastically called this strike 3 in the top of the first, and can I just see another angle of that one? But other Oriole bats have stepped up, and the Birds carried a 4-3 lead into the bottom of the 8th. But that's when the AL Rookie of the Year, whom nobody ever doubted what errors, stepped up to the plate, swung, and this little fellow leaned forward and swiped his stupid little glove at the ball, I'm from Maryland, sending it into the stands. The ump got it wrong, Jeter touched the plate, The child was hoisted aloft, which is essentially admitting wrongdoing. You don't celebrate someone that much who doesn't catch a ball that was hit into the stands. But the umps can't go off fan reactions, and they can't go off replays that clearly show interference. They can only go with a call. So it's complete bullshit, but we're tied. And it's still a tie game in the bottom of the 11th, with Bernie Williams up. Does he look nervous? Because there was a time when he could not handle pressure. Bernie Williams, now 28, was signed by the Yankees on his 17th birthday, as early as they could legally sign him. But it took him a long time to get good. 93 was his first full season in the majors, and he wasn't so bad, but he had a bad time. The introverted, quiet jazz guitarist lacked confidence. For some notoriously cruel veterans in the Yankee clubhouse, those qualities put a target on his back. Mel Hall, that's the notoriously cruel one, called Williams Zero and said, "Shut up, Zero," anytime Williams tried to talk, to the extent that Hall almost made the guy cry. The GM had to get involved and be like, "Stop." The rejection in the locker room affected his game. He was always worried about messing up, a strong fear of failure governing his every move. Steinbrenner didn't like him and tried to get rid of him a couple times, most recently last season. But good thing that didn't pan out, because Bernie had a breakout performance in this year's ALDS against the Rangers. In decisive Game 4, he homered from both sides of the plate. Lefty Bernie tied the game in the 5th, righty Bernie homered for an insurance run in the 9th. And it wasn't just his sparkling double-sided bat. In Game 2, he scored off clever and speedy base running. And in Game 3, he robbed a Ranger homer. Tonight, he's been solid, but not spectacular. Leading off the bottom of the 11th, the count 1-1, he's batting righty against the lefty closer, Randy Myers. Does he look like the shy baby deer of his old derogatory nickname? Or does he look like the great prince of the forest, Bambi's father's real name, that he was in the division series? The Orioles wouldn't mind a win here to make up for some unpleasantness. The Yankees wouldn't mind a big play right here to help nullify some unfairness at the hands of an insufferable child. One of these teams is capturing Game 1, pulling ahead in the final stretch of the race to the World Series. A race that began in the front offices this winter and continues as we speak. Welcome to A Moment in History.
And here's a drive to left. It's mighty high. It's mighty far. And good night.
Hey everybody, thanks for watching, and thanks for being my friend. Right? We've got some more videos you might be interested in, and we've also got a subscribe button you might be interested in. For Secret Base, I'm Clara Morris. Good night and good game.